Squirrels, rabbits, birds, squash vine borers, rats, mice, caterpillars, raccoons. There's one thing that will stop almost all of them. Let me know in the comments what your most annoying garden pest is. Now, I can't say that this miracle item is something you all already have at home, but it's really easy to get. Just go to a fabric store. That's right, I'm not talking about a spray or a powder or a magic potion. I'm talking about tulle. In this video, I'm going to show you several different ways to use it to save your crops. Let's start out with fruit trees. The birds seem to know exactly when fruit is ripening, and that's when they swoop in and destroy your harvest. Not by eating a few whole fruits, but by pecking a little bit out of each and every one of them. So why not use bird netting? I have for years. The thing is, if you've ever tried to remove bird netting after the season is over, you end up stripping the leaves, breaking the branches. It's a mess because the branches have grown right through it. And when you try to remove the netting, you remove the leaves. Bird netting also has a tendency to not just keep birds away from the fruit, it will do that, but it also has a tendency to entangle them when they just land on the tree. It also will entangle things like frogs and lizards. We want them off the fruit, not dead. Spreading tulle over the tree and securing with clothespins, just like bird netting, will keep the birds out and keep them alive. But it's also easy to remove because the mesh isn't big enough to let branches grow through it. Another great way to use tulle is to spread it over small crops or seedlings. New pea shoots or bean sprouts pushing through the ground, the birds love them. So do the squirrels and rabbits. Tulle will keep them out. And tulle is so lightweight that you can just lay it on top of the small plants and they will just push it up as they grow. My pumpkins and melons were decimated by rabbits this spring. They literally ate the plants down to stubs. I put some tulle over them, weighted it down around the edges, and within 6 weeks, those plants rebounded and are thriving and producing fruit. I covered some with tulle and some with bird netting. The rabbits ate off anything that was poking through the netting, but there was nothing poking through the tulle for them to get. So another win for the tulle over bird netting. The thing about pumpkins and melons and anything that needs to be pollinated to bear fruit is you do eventually need to remove the tulle so the pollinators can get to the flowers and do their job. But I found when the plants were bigger than the rabbits, they left them alone. So I was able to remove it and everything was fine. But if you're putting the tulle over them for the squash vine borer or squash bugs, things like that, you can't really take that tulle off or they become vulnerable to these pests. So you will need to hand pollinate, but it's easy to do. First, you need to know the difference between male and female flowers. The male flower is just a flower on a stem. The female flower is a flower on top of a miniature, whatever that final fruit's gonna be, pumpkin, squash, whatever. Take one of the male flowers that is open and take all those petals off. Go around to all female flowers of the same variety, and one male can pollinate many females. I didn't make up the rules. Go to the females and expose the female part or the stigma, if it isn't already, and rub the pollen on it. That's it. A lot of plants don't need pollination. Brassicas, for instance, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. You eat the leaves and the stems of these plants. So pollination is only needed if you want to grow your own seed from that plant. Tulle is a great way to keep away the cabbage moth that lays the eggs that become cabbage worms. These little guys can devastate your brassicas in just a few days. The moth can't get through the tulle to lay their eggs on the leaves, and you can leave the tulle on these plants all the way up until harvest. Carrots and beets or any other root vegetables, the tulle can keep the carrot fly out and other pests. And again, this can stay on till harvest. One of my favorite uses is for tomatoes. The first part of last year, squirrels were eating all of my tomatoes as soon as they were ripe. We don't have rats here, but we did at my old house, and they would do the same thing. Later in the year last year, I found out about the tulle and tried wrapping each tomato. Okay, obviously not cherry tomatoes unless you have the patience of a saint. But I wrapped the large tomatoes in a square of tulle, just like wrapping up a present, and I secured it with a clothespin at the stem. Not one single tomato got eaten for the rest of the year. It's hard to believe that something this thin and lightweight would keep squirrels and rats out, but apparently they don't like the feeling of it on their claws. Whatever works. For a determinate tomato like aroma, you could cover the whole thing with tulle, secure it with clothespins to keep the birds and rodents off. Now, tulle most popularly comes in white for wedding dresses and multicolors for like tutus. I got the black because I like things looking a little more orderly. I don't actually want to see it. And the great thing about black is it pretty much becomes invisible almost in the garden. For other ideas on easy organic pest control, give this video a click, and I'll see you next time.